13 indie books on the shelf, 13 indie books. In today's video, I'm going to be doing an indie book tour. I'm going to go through the books in the order of when I got them, and I'll be shouting out, linking to, or telling you who the authors are in the bio of this video. So if any of these books hook your interest, definitely check them out. Before I introduce the books, let me introduce myself. My name is Paris, and I'm the soon-to-be author of the Magi Trilogy. Book 1 is coming to indie bookshelves near you on August 26, 2022, and I absolutely cannot wait to share it with you guys. But for now, on to my other indie books. Back and Forth, A Grasp of Emotion by Jessica Walker is the first indie book on my shelf. It is a walk through different emotions, and Jessica has split it up into 4 different parts. It's split up into insecurity, regret, love, and courage. And in the beginning of the book, she actually asks the reader what they believe the most important, the biggest, the most life-changing emotion is. And this book gives you a chance to walk through that thought and to come up with your own answer. So actually, if you guys know me, you know I'm not a big poetry fan, but as you can tell through all of these tabs here, I was a big fan of this book. This is actually one of the first poetry books I read that I really truly enjoyed, and I definitely recommend it to really just anybody who is interested in poetry, but anybody who's dealing with emotions, insecurities, etc. If one of these emotions is something that you're dealing with, I would definitely recommend checking out Back and Forth by Jessica Walker. The next set of indie books on my shelf is the Unmasked Trilogy by McKenna Rowell and her middle grade novella, September Embers. These books are currently all historical fiction, so if you are a fan of historical fiction, romance, spies, betrayal, and really anything related to the Revolutionary War time period, I would definitely recommend these books. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the trilogy first, and then I'll tell you guys a bit about September Embers. The Unmasked Trilogy is a dual POV, and it follows Emily Cartridge as she becomes a female spy in the Continental Army, and William Shepard, who is a colonel in the Continental Army. And the 3 books in the trilogy are Unmasked, Unlocked, and Unveiled. And a couple cool things about these 2 are that they are signed. Unmasked was actually signed in person at a Cracker Barrel when McKenna and I met up. And then Unlocked is I pre-ordered it from her, a signed copy, and I had it signed. These other 2 are not signed yet, but I am determined to visit McKenna again someday, and these will be coming with me to be signed by her. Unveiled is actually my favorite book ever, so I definitely recommend reading this trilogy so that you can read this book. And then I recommend rereading the trilogy so that you can rant about it as much as I do. I need to cut myself off before I spoil the whole thing. Let's talk a bit about September Embers. September Embers is actually a really sweet middle grade novella that follows Nicolette and her cousins as they save their farm from a redcoat invasion. And it is honestly a challenge to write middle grade because you need to have the balance of the plot without, the violence, etc. That is something of an older grades read. So McKenna did a really amazing job with this, and I think the cover is absolutely adorable as well. She actually designed it. So I definitely recommend, I recommend this book to anybody whether or not you're a child, but to anybody in third through 5th grade, I definitely recommend checking out September Embers. Next up on my indie shelf, for all of those dystopian fans out there, is Untouchable by MC Pending. Now, Untouchable is actually book 1 in a trilogy, and book 2 is coming out this year. She recently announced the name. It is called Untamable. So it seems like between McKenna and MC, we have a lot of names. So I wonder what the 3rd book in her trilogy will be called. That being said, Untouchable follows 17-year-old Tessa, who lives in a society where you are given a rank and then you are stuck with that rank. However, Tessa is taken away from that society and put inside what is called the Labyrinth. Now, the Labyrinth and everybody inside of it is pretty much sort of a little bit doomed to die, and there are no sandwiches in there. So it's kind of, depressing times for Tessa, and this book follows her adventures as she kind of attempts to escape the labyrinth and kind of attempts to get some friends and kind of attempts to fall in love. But this is Tessa we're talking about, and she is a handful, and I love and adore her for it. So if you are a fan of dystopian, I definitely recommend checking out Untouchable. The next set of indie books I have is the Emline Atera series by Ariana Tasato. Now right here I have book 1 and 2 of the trilogy, which is Our Mistaken Identity and The Hunter in the Room. And then right here is a very early stage of Our Mistaken Identity called Liar Liar, A Spy's Desire. Now what I find really special about this book is it shows us really how far Ariana has come. It is the very base of what is now Our Mistaken Identity. So she sold this for a limited time, and I think this is a really special and sweet book because you can see how she has grown and changed as a writer, and it also shows all of us how we all start from somewhere and it can change to such a vast difference because there really is a big difference in the plot, and it really shows that what you have on your shelf might have used to be something completely different. And I think it's a really special side of the book that we get to see with Liar Liar, A Spy's Desire. Now, the series itself, it follows young Emma, who is a sorceress in a world where witches, where people with magic, are hunted. And Emma is actually training in a school for hunters. So it is a very interesting twist where she is hidden in a world, training, learning to destroy and eradicate those who have magic, even though she herself has magic. And there's a little bit of romance mixed in there as well. So if you're into spies and you are into magic, then I would definitely recommend the Emline Atera series by Ariana Tasato. The next book on my indie shelf is The Unanswered Questions by Lauren D. Falter. Now this is one of the most recent books on my shelf, and I actually have yet to finish it. I am on chapter 2, and I figured since the bookmark is on that chapter, I could give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek of the formatting inside. Because look at how gorgeous that header is. I have literally stared at this for several long minutes before I filmed this clip. That being said, I wanted to give you guys a bit of a hint as to what is to come in this absolutely mammoth book, because I can't give you quite a summary off the top of my head, but what I can do is read to tell you guys that it has been 24 hours since the bombing, the first attack in 300 years. Now, I believe Lauren has classified her book as more of a science fantasy in a way, which is a very interesting and unique genre. I actually have one other book on my shelf that is of the same fantasy, same genre. And what's fun about it is it has the fantasy elements whilst also having that technological advancement of science fiction. So for anybody interested in either sci-fi or fantasy, as well as dystopian, I would definitely recommend checking out The Unanswered Questions. The next book on my indie shelf is The Perilous Quest by the Tawney siblings, and it is book 1 in the Unanswered Trilogy. Now this is actually a very new book to my shelf. I have yet to even open it to page 1. So while I can't give you guys that big summary of everything going on, what I can tell you guys is to always keep your eyes on the horizon. Now this is a book that I absolutely cannot wait to read, and what I find really fun about it is it's not just one author but 3. It is written by the Tawney siblings, so I'm very excited to see what they've come up with in a book that they all wrote together. I think honestly co-writing is a lot of fun, and I think reading a book that's written by not just friends but siblings, family, will be an amazing read. So if you are into that type of thing, if you are into like creating with family, if you're into working together as a team, I would definitely recommend The Perilous Quest. Next up is Breaking Free by Larissa Galt. Now Breaking Free is book 1 in the Agents of Ivankov series, and it actually just came out on May 28th. It is her debut novel and one I definitely recommend. I had the honor of being both an alpha and an ARC reader for Larissa, so it is a book I can tell you with full confidence you will want to reread. It is also, as I mentioned before, the second book that has a science fantasy genre. So again, it has some of those fantasy elements, but it also has, the real world setting alongside of the technological advancements and powers that come with science and technology. So Breaking Free follows, it's a split point of view, but it ultimately follows Lavinia Markov's story as she strives to save herself and her siblings from their role in the Ivankov organization. Now, this book has a ton of the found family trope. It has protective siblings, both younger and older. It has romance, and it has fighting for each other and your friends and your family and escaping. They are actually spies and assassins, so there is a lot of everything in this book, and it's all combined right in here, represented perfectly by this cover, which is actually an illustration of one of my favorite scenes. So, if you are into spies, adventure, love, romance, and heartbreak, because yes, you will need tissues for the ending, I would recommend Breaking Free by Larissa Gall. The most recent addition to my indie collection is The Rise of Raiden by Susan L. Markloff. Now, I actually won this book in a giveaway and it arrived just this week, so I'm not super familiar with it as a whole. However, reading from the synopsis, I cannot wait to learn more about it. The Rise of Raiden follows Jennifer Monroe, who seems to be, just your average high school girl, who, when a werewolf, several imposing men, a complete goofball, and two large four-legged creatures barge into her room, help train her to be a dragon slayer by night. And while she continues her normal life during the day, she kind of loses her chance as a normal girl when a dragon attacks her high school looking for her specifically. So if you are into werewolves, magic, mystery, dragons, and dragon slaying, I would definitely recommend The Rise of Raiden by Susan L. Markloff. And that concludes my indie book tour. So, if any of these books strike your interest or seem like a book you are interested in reading, as I said in the beginning of the video, I will be linking all of the author's information down below with the title, their name, their Instagram page, and for those of them who have a YouTube, I will be putting that link in the description as well. So if you guys need any help finding them, or if you have any questions about any of the books, feel free to comment down below and I'd be happy to help you out. Now, a quick moment before I close out of this video for today, I wanted to just briefly touch on the importance of reviews. If you have read or are planning on reading any indie books, please review them on whatever platform you bought them on, whether it's Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart.com, etc., as well as Goodreads. Reviews are one of the best marketing tools that writers and authors use because first of all, it will help attract people as to why they want to read the book. But not only that, it will, programs like Amazon will actually boost your sales when you have a certain amount of reviews, etc. So taking a few seconds to even just quickly tap the number of stars and then write briefly, I liked this book because the characters were fun, or I found this is a really good read, I couldn't put it down. It doesn't need to take a lot of time, it doesn't need to be really in-depth, but it just needs to be there. And not only that, but please don't just click the star rating because that actually doesn't help the authors very much. What Amazon and other platforms weigh on more so than the book rating is the review itself. If you take that moment to just quickly say that you liked the book, that you enjoyed the read, that you can't wait for the second book, it'll make, first of all, an author really happy, but second of all, you will actually help them make more sales. That being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and whatever time it is, whether it's morning, evening, night, afternoon, or any other time, have a great day.